when I transition, I will be changing my name to Alana. I made the decision to do this summer, and one of the first things I did was look for the voice class, start on hair removal, because those things take a period of time, and it's good to have them out of the way before you start going full-time. I hope to be going full-time sometime next year, by the time I'm 30. That's kind of pushing it, but I understand it's a process, and however much time it takes is fine. As far as my career goes, I just got a permanent position where I have health insurance finally, so I can start getting some of the costs covered, and I feel very fortunate to have the resources to be able to do this, whereas in the past this has been impossible for those reasons alone. I also have my own place to live, finally, which also helps when you're not living with your parents or with other people who have certain expectations of you. You can just be yourself and not have to worry about dealing with them constantly. So, and pretty much, hopefully, going to be starting hormones soon and just coasting along. I probably will talk about the next big challenge for me, which is that I'm not out to my family or at work, so it's going to be dealing with those issues, and I think it's going to be the most difficult thing because it's those type of relationships, and of course I don't want to lose my job and I don't want to lose my family, so I'm just trying to be very careful about how I do that. I have a couple other terms which you might not hear about too often, but we're talking about this idea of the gender binary, but there's also people who consider themselves androgynous. So I know people on both ends of the spectrum who identify as female, trans woman, for instance. And I know people who look the same. They wear makeup, they dress up, but they consider themselves male. So that would be like an example of someone who's gender queer, not transsexual, because they still consider themselves male. Their gender is different than what society prescribes. Androgynous people like my friends Bryce and Sean, they don't consider themselves either male or female. They want to sort of take away the roles that they're put into and just be people without those type of social stigmas, I guess. Or also in terms of, you mentioned sexual orientation. For a lot of people, I think sexual orientation gets mixed up where it really shouldn't be a factor in gender identity. I've talked to people who say, a transsexual female is just a gay male. Pretty much, if someone is identifying as female, then, because of the way we view sexual orientation, then their relationships would be based on that female identity. It wouldn't be based on their birth sex. So, a trans woman who's attracted to men would be a heterosexual relationship. It wouldn't be a gay relationship. And for the most part, I think it's a good idea to separate those two out and not think of sexual orientation as a part of this process. It's like Renata would say in the day classes, it's like a very small issue compared to this huge issue of gender. And for a lot of people, it's really not something we're that worried about. Once I go full-time, though, there's going to be the expectation that that's going to change. So I'm making sure that my clinicians know that, I'm fine with being called he or she. Either one is fine for me. But I think once I do go full-time as a female, I'm going to want to make that distinction clear that from now on, that part is over. And there was one more thing I was going to say. But, I was going to talk about stealth a little bit. And that just relates to privacy. So the fact that I'm not out to my family and to my work, that's an idea of stealth where you want to respect the privacy of, not telling them or making that information public. At the same time, when somebody fully transitions, they may not want to bring up the past and, have that as like a stigma that follows them around. So that's an idea of stealth where they may not want to talk about their previous name or their past life. So it's just an idea of, when people say stealth, they're really talking about privacy and to respect, to respect that as counselors, I think is very important.
Yes.
In terms of my challenges, I think we all had a very long journey just to get internally to the point where we realized we wanted to deal with this. So I think most of us would probably admit that was the hardest part, is just living in a way we felt was wrong. So once you come to that conclusion yourself that you're going to do something about it, I think most of the hardest part has to do with dealing with society that then is not going to be very accepting. Or at least you think it's not. Sometimes you're surprised. And that's why, as far as what I'm doing with the voice, with the hair removal, the things I want to do, but they also help with my interaction with society. So it makes that, that problem sort of dissipate. I mean, your face is always exposed, so if you have those secondary sex characteristics of the Adam's apple, which some people have shaved, or the facial hair, it's very hard if people see that for them to respect your gender choice. So I don't know. I really don't miss the facial hair too much, but I'm still going through it. So the voice, the same thing. It's for some people it's not important, but I think it does help a lot with the social interaction. So for me, I did not like my old voice. I can't wait till I don't have to use it anymore and just have a nice female voice that I can use all the time. But those are the big challenges for me now. It's just for a lot of us it would be like I think Renata would say. For her transition, it was just you change your name and then that's a transition for you. You said you're female and that's it. But the next hard part is just dealing with society that has all these expectations and just trying to be comfortable. So that's the hard part now. Some of the instructions I was getting online was to start at a very high falsetto pitch and bring it down, and they're always warning you, we're not professionals, this can cause a lot of stress and damage, we're not responsible. But I like with this group that it focused more on the breath support, in terms of drawing a deep breath from the abdomen, and I think holding the notes, also making a clearer tone, because we're just not used to using the higher pitch. But if you push it too high, or you try for some like super high squeaky voice and then it doesn't sound quite right, or if you, I don't know, maybe it sounds right. So it's nice to have the feedback, and it's nice to realize that it's a gradual process and you don't have to jump right up, and try to hit the goal right away. You can bring it up gradually and and work on things. Like right now I'm working on projection. I'm supposed to be working on eye contact. I'm pretty bad about not looking at, I'll be looking at the ceiling, looking at the floor, So there's lots of things you can work on, and those are not necessarily things that I would work on if I was doing it by myself. If somebody's there, saying, you need to make eye contact, you need to raise your voice up, those are the things that will really help me in terms of being able to have a usable voice rather than just, a voice that sounds good to me but isn't really that good to use.